I am going to invite up my friend Wil Pelletier, who is going to testify this morning about his own father. And we are blessed to hear his testimony that comes from a eulogy that he gave for his father. Come on up, Wil.
Every Father's Day since my father passed away, the grief comes closer to the surface. In honor of my father and all fathers, living and past, I'd like to share a portion of the eulogy I wrote for my father and some additional thoughts. When my father was in the ICU, I prayed for him whenever I could, in every way I know how. I find myself praying for my family now. We have lost our compass and our anchor. My father knew the right path and helped keep us from straying. He kept us from going adrift when things were rough. Among my earliest and fondest memories are Sunday mornings. My father would wake me so we could go to the earliest mass in town, and then to Duke's Diner, and then the office, where my father would prepare his work for the week. And he would give me some age-appropriate tasks to do. My father was not a lecturer. He taught and led by example. On some Sunday mornings after the office work was complete, we would go to my grandparents' house, sometimes to bring them oil or sometimes because there was something that needed to be done. On the drive out, I would hear stories of my dad's childhood, about his parents and how much he enjoyed doing things for them. Without realizing it at the time, I was learning by example how an adult child can respect and admire their parents for their whole life. My father was courageous. He taught me to drive, but not in the family car like most other parents. He taught me in a fuel oil delivery truck. As the parent of a teenage driver, I don't need much imagination to picture the courage required to get into a fuel truck with a 16-year-old at the wheel. My father's idea of taking it easy on me was to only partially fill the fuel tank of the truck. It made it a little easier for hill starts with the manual transmission. But then he shared as we were on the highway, approaching the Tobin Bridge, that partially filled oil tanks tend to slosh. So don't do anything sudden or we might roll the truck. My father gave me the foundation and direction that helped me choose paths and helped me to get back on track when I drifted. I wrote my father's eulogy during the early stages of grief, and now I realize that the compass and anchor were not gone. I had just lost sight of them. Anything forged in love is indestructible. And the magical nature of love is that when you give something with love, it returns increased. It cannot be destroyed, but it can change form. I realize now that the compass and anchor were with me and always will be. And as Father's Day approaches, I'm particularly aware of the other father figures that have been in my life. I realize I was immensely fortunate to have had several father figures in my life. Most notably, I had two grandfathers and two mentors that altered my life's paths. My mother's father was my father's business partner, and my grandfather loved having me by his side. He taught me the value of being of service to others. My father's father was more of the quiet doer. He never patted himself on the back, but my grandmother was a great cheerleader, always touting his faith and commitment to being a provider for his family. I learned from him that what one does is much more important than what one says. I also think about two particular mentors I had. When I was choosing a career path, I seriously considered going into law enforcement, and there were two police officers who mentored me. Both of these men shared with me their experiences in pursuing their careers, ways to get a foot in the door, and to progress in that career. But both of them also shared that they saw talents in me that they wished that they had, because they felt that they would have pursued other careers if they could have. As a result, I followed a different path. All of these father figures gave me compasses that guided me on my life's journey. Although my father figures were all men, I now realize that they didn't need to be. From my feeble efforts at learning foreign languages, I learned that gender can be assigned to words in ways that have no relationship to biology. So I've concluded that fathering can be associated with an action without relating it to anything biological. Therefore, anyone can do the things we commonly consider fathering. And we can all be part of fathering another person, no matter where we are on the gender expression spectrum, and without having a biological connection to that other person. Whenever we share a compass forged from love, we are being the best father we can be.